for infinity in space and time. Of course, it is also true that when ruled by wild surmise and the animal passions we all share, our unbounded fantasy can disintegrate into madness. Milton expressed this greatest risk of the human condition very well. A mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell and a hell of heaven. So perhaps it is a blessing that the mind does not travel easily to vast and unfamiliar regions, but instead prefers to cruise and repeat its excursions in small, familiar circles. Further, as a rule, people do not like the solitude of their own thoughts. A team of psychologists from the University of Virginia and Harvard University recently found that volunteers disliked sitting alone for even as little as 6 minutes with nothing to do but think. They enjoyed mundane external activities more. They even preferred administering electric shocks to themselves if nothing else was available. The full explanation of any biological phenomenon, including creativity in both science and the humanities, engages 3 levels of thought. First, for any conceivable living entity or process, a bird taking flight, a lily growing toward the sun, your reading of this sentence, the first inquiry must be, what is it? Provide the structure and functions that define the phenomenon. If it involves music or theater, perform it. The second level is the question, how was it put together? What made it come into existence? What were the events that resulted in the conditions of its origin, whether 10 seconds or 1,000 years ago? The third and final level is, why do the phenomenon and its preconditions exist in the first place? Why not a different mode of evolution not present on this planet that might have produced a different kind of thinking brain? Scientists study living phenomena at all 3 of these levels. As a rule, they choose entities and processes that engage the what, how, and why in whatever detail and dimension that lies within their reach. Biologists, however, perhaps even more than other scientists, feel it necessary to seek cause and effect at all 3 levels. The causes that bring about a living phenomenon, such as the flight of a bird or our perception of a flower's colors, are called proximate causes. The events that guided the evolution of the phenomenon to its present state are called ultimate causes. Proximate causes are the what and how of a full explanation. Ultimate causes are the why. Scientific explanations of organic life, including human life, routinely entail both proximate and ultimate causes. In contrast, accounts that govern inquiries in the humanities attempt at best only proximate explanations. Ultimate causation tends to be left to the god of Genesis or ancient alien visitors, or a mysterium tremendum et fascinans, imagined to be resident deep within the human mind. Take as a random example the red color of a flower petal placed before you. The redness, like all other hues, is distinguished by the stimulation of a particular portion of the electromagnetic spectrum composing the visual spectrum. The receptors are red-sensitive cones in the retina. The latter transmit signals to a staging center in the brain cortex, thence in relays back to the rear of the cortex, then to integrating units of perception and emotion, and finally back out to the centers of the conscious forebrain, causing you to say red, or perhaps rot, or rouge, or krasny, or bombu, depending on your native language. Having gone this far, scientists have, in recent decades, tracked down the interacting segments of DNA that compose the genes that prescribe the recognition of colors. Thus, scientific research has brought us close to solving the first line of mysteries.